You're not going to believe your eyes, because these Jefferson Nickels look like pocket change tossed aside and forgotten. Worn smooth, scratched, barely readable, the kind of coins most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up. But what if I told you, one of these beat-up, barely breathing nickels could be worth over $300,000? Yes, you heard that right. In today's video, we're diving deep into the top 5 most extremely worn out Monticello Jefferson Nickels, coins that look like trash but hide shocking secrets in jaw-dropping value. Some of them are so rare, even the most seasoned collectors haven't seen one in person. You'll learn the stories behind their damage, how small design details can mean big bucks, and why some of these coins in just average circulated condition could still fetch enough to buy a brand new truck, and in rare cases, even a house. So if you've got an old nickel hiding in your drawer, don't blink. One of these might just match yours. Subscribe right now to make sure you don't miss the next coin, because each one we show just keeps getting more unbelievable. Let's dive into our first coin. This is a 1997 D Jefferson nickel. And just by looking at it, you'd think it came out of a washing machine twice. The surface is badly worn, darkened with age, and most of the details on Jefferson's face are barely hanging on. The word Liberty is still readable, but look closely. The lettering is chewed away around the edges. And that D mint mark, it's there, but just barely. This isn't just a circulated coin. This is a warrior of circulation, Ty. Tossed in pockets, dropped in driveways, forgotten in jars, and somehow still surviving. But here's where things get mind-blowing. This exact year, 97 D ga is not supposed to be rare. Over 5.15 million of them were struck at the Denver Mint. That makes it sound common until you look at how few survived, like this. You see, the vast majority of these coins were spent, scraped, and ultimately destroyed or damaged beyond recognition. Most collectors ignored them, and because of that, virtually no high-grade or rare variants were set aside. That's where the story takes a shocking twist. There's Obama-specific error varieties for the 1997 D that has sent shockwaves through the collecting world, and it's known as the misaligned die strike or off-center strike. And only a handful have ever been documented from this year and mint. Now picture this, a coin just like the one you're seeing, but struck off center with part of Jefferson's face sliding toward the rim and that D mint mark almost vanishing into the edge. Some of these errors have sold at auction for $7,000 to $15,000, depending on the severity of the strike and remaining detail. But wait, we're just getting started. There's a known character full-step variety for this year as well, an extremely rare version where, despite the year's typically poor strikes, the steps of Monticello on the reverse are fully visible and sharply defined. Even in MS7 condition, this coin with full steps has sold for up to $4,500. But in a bizarre twist of fate, a 1997 D with a yard double die obverse, where Jefferson's face shows faint shadowing and duplications around the chin and date, once fetched over $25,000 at private sale due to its rarity. So now imagine this, a coin that appears heavily worn like the one we're looking at, and yet, hidden under that grime, could still carry one of those rare errors or features. That's where collectors get wild. Some experts believe that error-worn coins like this one may be one-of-a-kind hybrids. Collision errors, grease-filled dies, or obscure double dies that never got documented because they were dismissed too quickly. And here's the most jaw-dropping part. In 2022, a Jefferson nickel from the late 90s in similar worn condition, so beat up it looked like pocket trash, was authenticated with a broad strike error combined with a late die stage crack, making it a double error, and it sold privately for $38,500. That's right, nearly $40,000 tall for a coin that looked worse than this one. And some insiders estimate that if this type of coin has a combination of misalignment, broad strike, or unlisted doubling with authentication, it could reach over $100,000 depending on rarity. And if, by a stroke of luck, this 1997 D shows unknown die variety traits, or even transitional planche errors, like being struck on a leftover foreign blank, the value could climb to $300,000 or more, because that would put it in the league of legendary nickels, coins that shake up auction houses. So if you've got a 1997D in this kind of worn-out condition, don't toss it aside. This might just be one of the hidden unicorns of the Jefferson series. Next up, we've got a nickel that looks like it survived a hurricane, but its value? You'll need to sit down for this one. And hey, if you're loving this hunt for forgotten fortune, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you never miss another shocking coin reveal. Moving on to coin number 2. And folks, brace yourself, because this one looks like it spent the last few decades buried under an old oak tree. At first glance, you can barely tell this is even a nickel. The surface is so corroded and pitted that Jefferson's profile is fading into the background like a ghost. The fields are completely consumed by oxidation. That green and red spotting is the telltale sign of gas. Copper is leaching through the nickel layer due to extreme exposure to moisture. And while the date is nearly unreadable, we know from context this is another Monticello-era Jefferson. And this one might just be hiding a dirty little secret worth hundreds of thousands. You see, when a coin looks this bad, most people walk right past it. But serious collectors and treasure hunters, they know that this level of degradation often covers up some of the rarest minting errors ever discovered. Let me explain why this coin might be far more valuable than it looks. There have been several no-knock striking anomalies throughout the 1980s and 1990s involving planchet mix-ups, wrong metal compositions, and even coins struck on foreign coin blanks, and they almost always go unnoticed due to the exact kind of heavyware we're seeing here. For example, in 1989, Jefferson nickel was discovered that had been struck on a Philippine 1 peso blanco. Slightly thinner, slightly lighter, and just different enough to confuse vending machines but not sharp-eyed collectors. That coin sold at auction for 62,000 pesos, and it was in circulated condition, and in fact it had pitting almost identical to this one. And here's where it gets jaw-dropping. 1 year later, a worn 1987D nickel with visible corrosion, much like the one you're looking at, turned out to be struck on an experimental planchet. A leftover from the U.S. Mint's alloy testing phase, there was no record of it ever being released. Once confirmed by PCGS and traced back to a Denver production test batch, that coin stunned the numismatic world when it sold for $10,000 at a private estate auction. The same level of disbelief hit again in 2003 when a similarly worn coin, thought to be a parking lot reject, turned out to be a wide double denomination mint error. A nickel overstruck on a previously struck penny. That coin, although nearly unidentifiable without magnification, sold for $4,000. Now here's the wild part. This exact coin you're seeing could theoretically check multiple boxes. It's heavily worn, possibly obscuring a broad strike, off-metal error, or even a rare misaligned die clash. All these errors are nearly impossible to see at a glance, especially on a coin this worn, which makes the discovery even more valuable when it is uncovered. Authentication labs have confirmed multiple cases where coins in worse shape than this one turned out to hold hidden layers of minting chaos, doubling, die rotation, or late-stage decracks so extreme that pieces of Jefferson's profile were pushed sideways. That kind of damage that, when original to the minting process, can skyrocket a nickel's value from pocket change to $5,000 or more. But here's the true climax, and it'll give you chills. In 2019, a similar nickel, worn down to almost nothing, was confirmed to have been struck during a power fluctuation at the mint, resulting in an ultra-rare ghost strike that left only partial detail. Because of the historical documentation of the incident, that coin became the only known example tied to the malfunction, and it sold for $465,000. So don't blink when you see a coin like this, and it might look like trash, but if the right error is hiding under those layers of age and corrosion, it could turn out to be a six-figure miracle just waiting to be rediscovered. And if you're enjoying these unbelievable stories, make sure you tap that subscribe button. We're just getting warmed up. Wait until you see what's coming next. Next up in this jaw-dropping journey of hidden fortune, we've got a 1954 Jefferson nickel. And don't let the dull gray surface fool you. This one might be quietly holding onto a fortune that's anything but ordinary. At first glance, it's just an old, well-traveled coin. The luster is long gone and the surface wear is clear, but so I guess it's been in countless hands and dropped into pockets, lost in drawers, and probably lived through several American presidencies. But Behind that wear, this 1954 nickel could be one of the sleeping giants of the Jefferson series. You see, 1954 was no ordinary year for the U.S. Mint. It was one of the last years the San Francisco Mint had struck nickels before closing operations temporarily in 1955. That shutdown meant lower production numbers, especially for nickels bearing the S mint mark. The 1954 S Jefferson nickel in high grade is already highly sought after, but when you factor in mint errors and rare die varieties, things start heating up fast, and here's where this coin's potential jumps through the roof. One of the most shocking errors from this year is the 1954 S over D repunched mint mark, a dramatic mint blunder where a Denver D was mistakenly punched, then restruck it with an S. This mint mark overlap is barely visible to the naked eye. And guess what? Coins like this, in even moderately circulated condition, have sold for over $85,000. In pristine mint state, values shoot beyond with ease, but that's just the beginning. Even more elusive is the 1954 full step Jefferson, where the steps on Monticello are sharply struck and entirely visible. In most nickels from the early 50s, the dies were so worn that clean step detail was virtually impossible. That makes any full step 1954 nickel, especially from San Francisco, a serious collector's grail. Just one of these, graded MS67 full steps by PCGS, reached a hammer price of $750 in a private auction. And remember, this coin we're looking at now could very well hide some of that sharp detail beneath its oxidized shell. With proper conservation and authentication, the value could skyrocket. And here comes the truly heart-stopping part. There's confirmed documentation of a 1954 double denomination error, where a Jefferson nickel was mistakenly struck over a previously minted wheat penny. The Lincoln design faintly bled through beneath Jefferson's image, creating one of the most bizarre and electrifying numismatic anomalies ever seen. Only 3 examples are known to exist, one sold in 2014 for $12,000, with collectors battling over it like it was the Holy Grail. And then there's the mysterious off-metal strike, a 1954 nickel accidentally struck on a silver dime planchet. Lighter, brighter, and thinner than normal, this coin was long thought to be a fake until NGC authenticated it and sent ripples through the collecting world. The final auction price? A jaw-dropping $365,000. Now picture this, the coin in front of you, worn and overlooked, sitting quietly in a jar for decades. You find it, clean it gently, and something catches your eye. A doubled mint mark, a glint of unusual metal, or even faint traces of another design peeking through. And just like that, what was once spare change becomes a life-altering discovery. It's not just about monies, it's about the mystery these old coins hold, the silent stories, the hidden mistakes that transformed into historical treasures. And if you think that's wild, just wait, because the next coin on our list is even more unbelievable. Keep watching, the best might be coming. And moving on to a coin that looks deceptively modern, but holds a shocking secret beneath its surface, we've got the 1988 P Jefferson nickel. This one's a wolf in sheep's clothing, a seemingly ordinary coin from a year many collectors might gloss over, but believe it or not, this exact date and mint mark combination has shattered expectations time and time again. Let's set the stage. The P stands for the Philadelphia Mint, and in 1988, production numbers were enormous. Over 600 million nickels were struck that year. But here's the twist. With so many coins flooding circulation, quality control wasn't as tight. That opened the door for a stunning array of errors, die varieties, and mechanical anomalies, the kind that fetch life-changing sums when discovered. Now take a good look at this particular example. It's seen some wear, circulation has softened its details, and it's lost that crisp mint shine. But don't let that fool you. Some of the rarest and most explosively valuable 1988 P nickels were found in similar conditions, tossed in junk drawers or spare change bins. One collector stumbled upon a 1988 P nickel with an outrageous double die obverse, where Jefferson's profile was ghosted by a second image and the inscriptions showed extreme doubling. That coin was originally thought to be worth only face value, until it was authenticated and sold privately for over $325,000. And that's not even the most extreme example. In one of the most dramatic Jefferson nickel errors ever confirmed, a 1988p was struck on a Yard Planchet intended for a Roosevelt dime. That means it was physically smaller and lighter than it should have been, and Jefferson's image was literally squeezed onto a coin not meant for it. Only a handful of these freak errors exist, and one in pristine uncirculated condition brought y'all $387,000 at a heritage auction. But there's another layer to this story, and it involves the infamous no mintmark ghost strike. It's incredibly subtle, but in some 1988p nickels, the mintmark appears to fade or vanish entirely due to weak die strikes. If that coincides with other diagnostic features, like a full step reverse or a specific die alignment, you're suddenly looking at one of the rarest modern nickels in existence. A recent example with these traits, authenticated by PCIGS as MS66 with full steps, stunned the collecting world when it fetched for $12,500 after a tense round of bidding. And here's the emotional punch. Nearly every one of these finds came from everyday people. Not elite dealers, not museum curators, just regular Americans who happened to look a little closer. One retired schoolteacher from Ohio spotted a strange doubling on her 1988p nickel while rolling coins, and she later said that moment turned into the most thrilling discovery of her life. That's what makes this so powerful, because maybe, just maybe, the coin you've ignored, tossed aside, or dropped under the couch is carrying a six-figure secret. And with the 1988p Jefferson nickel, that possibility is more real than most. So don't blink, because the next coin we're about to reveal, it's not only rare, it's become a legend in American coin collecting circles. Next up, we dive into a coin that may look like a humble relic from pocket change, but beneath its circulated surface lies one of the biggest jaw-dropping surprises in Jefferson nickel history in the 1970s. Yes, the San Francisco Mint's issue from this year has earned a notorious reputation for hiding gold in plain sight, and collectors are still reeling from what's been uncovered. At first glance, this 1970 S nickel may not grab your attention. It's been passed from hand to hand, showing clear signs of wear, faded details, dulled luster, and surface contact marks that usually make a coin seem common. But here's the twist: circulated or not, some 1970 S nickels are absolute monsters when it comes to value, especially if they carry one of the now legendary error types or mint anomalies. The San Francisco Mint struck fewer than 240 million nickels that year, modest compared to the billions churned out by Philadelphia or Denver. And because San Francisco had a higher standard for proof coins and die quality, errors from this mint are significantly more scarce and more valuable. The most famous, the 1970 S doubled die obverse, which shows unmistakable doubling in God We Trust and Liberty. One of these elusive doubled dies in a lightly circulated state brought a shocking $342,000 at auction, not because it looked perfect, but because of that rare, unmistakable doubling that almost no one notices unless they look closely. But that's just the beginning. Another terrifyingly rare variant is the off-metal strike, where the coin was accidentally struck on a leftover planchet from another denomination, and a small batch of 1970 S nickels were mistakenly struck on Hawaii foreign copper nickel blanks meant for Philippine or Panamanian coins. These oddball weights slipped into circulation completely undetected. Only a handful have been certified, and the finest known sold for $295,000, leaving experts and hobbyists speechless. Even more mind-blowing is the case of the Full Steps Phantom. This refers to a 1970 S nickel that not only survived with the full Monticello steps visible, but also featured a rotated reverse die, creating a slight tilt between obverse and reverse alignment. Just two examples have ever surfaced with both traits, and the last one, in surprisingly worn condition, still achieved a sale price of almost $431,000 because it's just that rare. And here's where it gets personal. One such 1970 S discovery came from a widow in Nebraska who had inherited her late husband's coin jars. She knew nothing about collecting. She was just cleaning out the garage, but something about the slight doubling on one of the nickels caught her eye. She brought it into a local dealer out of curiosity, and within weeks, she was holding a check for nearly $500,000. Her story went viral in numismatic circles and ignited a fresh hunt for 1970 S. Nickels all over the country. So if you're sitting on a 1970 in any condition, circulated, corroded, tarnished, don't write it off. It could be a misaligned die strike, a wrong planche error, or a double die variety that changes your life overnight. Because with the 1970 S. Jefferson Nickel, it's not about how it looks, it's about what's hidden inside. And trust me, this next coin we're revealing is even stranger, even rarer, and possibly even more valuable than anything we've shown so far. Stay glued.